I was born in California, near Disneyland, and that's where my dad's family and my mom's family lived. And we moved out to a small town in Texas because my brother's asthma was so bad in California. So we moved out to Gun Barrel City, or Maybank, on Cedar Creek Lake. And that's where I spent my formative years, kindergarten through the middle of ninth grade. And it was a good place to grow up out in the country. There was a lake. My grandpa owned a boat shop, so there was a lot of family around. And then I moved in high school, which is always fun to do. But we moved the middle of my freshman year to Bay City, which is down near Matagorda on the coast. And I lived there, finished out high school there, and then went on to A&M and spent 4 fun years there, and then med school in San Antonio, residency in Phoenix, and then came back to Texas. And so now, living in the great city of West. It's a funny story. So my mom worked for a vet in Maybank. He was an Aggie. And I would go in on the weekends and get paid to clean kennels. And I thought I wanted to go to A&M to be a vet. So I went to A&M and I took biomedical science as my major, which was pre-med, pre-vet, whatever. And then I volunteered at the large animal clinic because I knew in my heart I eventually wanted to be in a small town. And so if you're a small town vet, you have to do large animals. And I hated it. There was nothing I really found enjoyable about the large animals. And so I decided to switch my focus, and I volunteered at a local hospital. And initially I was taking patients to radiology, but then got sucked into the ER life, and then that was it. Yeah, I think there's 2 things really. The first one is, if you're going to go through med school and residency, you're giving up your 20s and you're giving up earning potential at that time. And most students have debt because it's expensive. And so I think the thing that is important for people to know that want to go into medicine is that you're going to have to do this the rest of your life, because there's not going to be another job that can pay for you to pay off that debt. So if you are serious about it, it's a lifetime commitment. And I think the other thing that I didn't realize, it's really not just a profession or a job. It really becomes part of who you are. And so wherever you're at, you're at the ball field or you're at the grocery store, you're the doctor. And if things go wrong, people look to you in a leadership way all the time. There's no downtime. It's part of your persona. So yeah. And that's not a bad thing. It's all encompassing and it's total. And so it's not really a switch you can turn on and off. When I tell patients, the biggest thing, you have to realize what's happening when you feel anxious. And everybody has anxiety, but I think it has gotten worse with COVID. And so a lot of times people internalize their anxiety and they have chest pain or they have stomach pain. And so you have to realize that's the underlying source. And then you have to find a way to deal with it. So there are pressure points that you can try, your thumb web space, you can push that. There's breathing techniques. For me in my personal life, I like to exercise because that releases natural endorphins and also blunts that sympathetic hyper reflex that you get that can trigger a panic or an anxiety attack. So if I don't exercise, I know my anxiety goes to the roof. So I do at least 5 days of cardio a week, and that helps keep my anxiety at bay. And the other thing is I like to read the Bible. It's quiet time, or read whatever you want to read. It takes you out of your own head and puts you somewhere else. I think we're going to have a drought. Yeah, if we're going to go all biblical, we had the plague. I think it's going to be hot. I think we're going to have a hot, dry summer. I think the big thing is, and I didn't realize how unprepared some of these kids are to live alone. So make your kids do their own laundry. Make them take their prescriptions to the pharmacy so they know how to do it. Make them schedule a doctor's appointment and go by themselves when they're in high school. These are all things that I would have never thought about as far as getting them ready to go to college, but it's really important. Some of these kids are like, what do I do with this prescription? I'm like, well, you take it to the pharmacy and there's a place that's drop off and then you wait or you can come back later and they're, oh, okay. They didn't know.
Yeah.
So these are just little life things that you don't think about it. And as a parent, we are rushing around trying to make everything easier for our kids. But in reality, I think for me, this has taught me what I need to teach them. Yeah, I think you have to, the big thing is, one, make some time for yourself. And for me, that happens to be when I exercise, because you have to recharge your battery. And if you don't, and I've been in the situation where I've neglected myself or my health, and it's to the detriment. So you have to be your best you to take care of everybody that you need to take care of. Number two, you've got to find a community to help, whether that be family, whether that be a close-knit group of friends. It's the people that live on your street. It's the kids that you're, the parents of the kids that are in your kids' classes, so that you can create carpool situations for games and practices. And that way, for example, today I work till 7 p.m. and one of my sons has track practice till 5:15, and his best friend's parents are going to drop them off at the house. It takes a village, and you need to nurture those relationships and help out other parents as well. I think that's the key, is you've got to have a community to help.
Yeah.
So the problem is that they like Mootopia, which is only sold in the half gallon. And I like it too, because it's not a commercial or anything, but it's a filtered, so there's less sugar, there's more protein. And so I have to go to HEB twice a week, and we go through 8 half gallons, so 4 gallons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty good amount of milk.
Yeah. They like their milk, which is fine. We don't do sodas or anything at the house, so it's milk or water. It's just a worldwide community. It graduates so many students. You can go anywhere. If you wear your Aggie ring and you travel, people come up to you and say, "Hey, I'm class of 97. Oh, I'm class of 95." And so there are Aggies everywhere, and it helps in business and other kind of relationships. But as far as traditions go, my favorite is muster, and it's actually coming up, where every April you're supposed to gather with any Aggies near and far. So we have West has one called the County Line Aggie Club, and you get together and have a meal, and you say the names and light a candle for those that have passed, the Aggie graduates that have passed. And so this year, my father-in-law passed away in January, so it'll be a really emotional muster for us this year. But that's my favorite tradition. The best summer trip, traveling with the boys, is always interesting. But we did one 4 years ago now, that we went to Scottsdale, and because I did my residency in Phoenix, so we flew into Phoenix and then stayed with our friends for one night who have kids and hiked around there. And then we drove up to Flagstaff and we rented a house there in the mountains. And so every day we went hiking, and I love the mountains in the summer because you can smell the pine sap. The air is crisp. It's not 100 degrees. And then we went to the Grand Canyon one day, and my middle child at that time was an obstinate. I think he was 6 years old, and he goes, "I don't know what the big deal is. It's just a hole in the ground." And he kind of moped around because he didn't want to go. But then he got into how pretty it was and stuff. But that was his first impression, so it'll always stand out. But that was probably one of my favorite trips, just because I like to be outside. And as far as things to do for us, we are doing an unheard of. We're going to Disney World this summer. So, and you want to talk about anxiety and stress? My husband's a good planner, so I'd let him do that. But the boys are about to age out of that, maybe. So we're finally venturing out to do that. Gosh, some of those stories are not ones you want to. If you're out to dinner with a group of people, are like, "Oh, what's the craziest thing you've seen in the ER?" Those are not appropriate. I don't know. I think the biggest thing for me in working in the ER is the fun fact is that the people you work with become a family. You're here 12-hour shifts, and I think that's the take home, is that your work people become your people.